All right, friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about editing and specifically how to edit efficiently. Now, this is obviously a big topic for filmmakers, talking about editing, kind of your overall process, and I'm not planning to dive deep into kind of each part of editing and breaking it down how I do it. That'll probably be over the course of a few different videos, but what I want to talk about today is efficiency and how to come up with a strategy so that you can be a great editor and get stuff done. So let's get into it. So the temptation that I've found as an editor is to jump ahead, to work on parts of the project that should be happening later in your edit, but instead you're working on it at the start. And an example of this might be, when you're out filming, you can see kind of how these shots are going to come together in a sequence. And so you might right away start putting together those B-roll sequences that you're excited to lay over your video. And you're kind of jumping the gun there. Another example would be, for me, I love color grading. And so I love to see kind of what that grade is going to look like on some specific shots that I've taken. Maybe I go ahead and drop those in and play with it a little bit just to kind of see what it's going to look like. And I want to help you kind of eliminate some of this time that can be wasted kind of tinkering with your footage, tinkering with effects, and hopefully get you kind of streamlining your editing process so that you can get stuff done efficiently. So I'm going to talk to you about kind of my process, and this is maybe not the same for you, but this is what I've found to be really helpful for me as I sit down and think through each edit. And so I'm gonna just kind of talk to you about how I edit efficiently. One thing I really value is organization. I really want to know where all my footage is, where all the graphic assets, where the audio, where everything is located while I'm editing. I don't want to be second guessing, did I take this off of my SD card? Is this, living somewhere in Dropbox, or do I have it here on my computer? I want to be organized. And so that's the first step that I take in any project, and that's organization. So organizing your footage and just any other assets that you're going to use to create this video. So start with that, get everything keyworded, put into events, different areas, organization. That's something I can break down kind of in another video, specifically how I organize things within my Finder on my external hard drive, and then how I organize all my footage within Final Cut Pro. But yeah, my first step is organization. My second step is content cutting. I shoot a lot of interviews. I tell a lot of stories kind of with my formal job in video production, and I do a lot of traveling. And so I meet a lot of people and shoot a lot of interviews. Usually they're 30 to 40 minutes in length. And so typically my first step after I've organized everything is to create projects, and I'll add in the person's name into that project, and then I will drop their footage into that timeline, and I will start with their content. And it's moving through that content, looking for the sound bites that I want to use in order to create their story. And even after I cut up content, there's a few different layers to that. I might take a 30-minute interview and cut it down to 12 minutes. Then my next step is going to be taking that 12-minute interview, getting it down to, say, 6 to 8 minutes. And then from there, I'm going to be paring it down to kind of my desired length, which is probably around 3 minutes. My third step after content cutting is just to kind of get an overall feel for how the project is going to lay out. And so I kind of decide, here's this chunk of content, and then I'm probably going to put a little slug in here, and then we're going to move to this content. Kind of just get a general flow of the video before I drop in an audio track, which that's my fourth step, which is audio. So I'm going to go find the perfect track, something that fits really well with just kind of the overall tone, the emotion of the video, and I'm going to drop in that audio track. Now, audio, is not just something to be kind of dropped in there and then just let it run. Music is a huge part of filmmaking and can really add a huge element to your story. And so for me, I think through audio very specifically, what I want it to sound like, when I want certain hits to come in, when I need the song to die down, maybe during an emotional part of the story. And so that step can usually take a decent amount of time to really get the audio kind of right where I want it to be. I'm keyframing up the volume in the breaks. I'm keying it back down when, the person comes back in and is talking. And I'm kind of making a lot of final tweaks to the audio, kind of just overall levels before I move on to my next step. And the next step I'm working on is B-roll. And, this takes a good bit of time because now I'm making some artistic choices on what shots I want to be where. Usually as a part of this step, after we've done the audio, I might go in and put some markers where I feel that there's going to be some B-roll shots. So then I kind of have, when I zoom out and look at my project, I can see like, okay, I'm gonna have some sequences here, I'm gonna have a sequence here, I'm gonna need a shot here. But I'm gonna move through and I'm gonna add my B-roll. During my organization step, I've usually gone through the B-roll event in Final Cut and I've put keywords underneath. So if I've got some outside shots, I'll label it, exteriors. If I've got some shots where the people are talking or mingling with other people, I might, call it mingling or connection or whatever. I'll just label the different types of B-roll so that when I'm kind of looking for a specific shot, if I need something scenic of some flowers or some trees or something in a neighborhood, I've got keywords for each of those things and I'm not having to go hunt for it. So organization plays a huge role and kind of helps you be efficient as you move through your edit. So my next step then in my process is to go through and color grade the entire video. And this is probably one of my favorite steps. And I'm not claiming to be like this color grade expert, but I really do like seeing kind of the final image start to take shape. So I'm gonna go through the interview shots, I'm gonna, color grade, expose, saturation, if there's any tweaking I need to do as far as correction, I'll make those changes. A lot of times for the interview, if it's in a controlled environment, I can copy some of those settings kind of throughout the project onto the other interview shot, so that can go kind of quick. And then I'm working through the B-roll shots. And because it's my favorite step, it's usually a step I want to jump to too early. So I have to kind of control myself from jumping ahead. So after I'm done with the color grade, usually from here, I'm gonna move to something like graphics. And if I need a lower third, introducing certain characters in the video, I'll add those things in. If I need to create some sort of logo reveal, this is usually the time in the project where I will break from Final Cut Pro and I will move over to Apple Motion and I will create that asset and then export it, bring it back into Final Cut Pro, add that, wherever it needs to go in the video. Usually for me, it's a lot of times at the end or right near the beginning. So I manage all my graphics, and then from here, the video is really feeling done. And the last thing I'm going to do is the audio tweaking. And this is a really important step to finish your edit. You want to kind of go back and listen to your whole project, and you might, tweak, some words that kind of come out a little too hot, or maybe they're starting their sentence again and they come in a little too strong and it doesn't blend well with the statement prior to that. And so I'm just kind of moving through and keyframing some areas. So now you're kind of seeing your whole video, right there in front of you, and it's done. And for me, I can edit a story a lot of times all in one day, even multiple stories sometimes. If I'm having to create 4 or 5 stories from a certain shoot, I can batch these things together, and by the end of this whole process, I can have 4 or 5 videos completely done and ready to share with the client. So what's important to remember here is figuring out, what works for you. I'm kind of shared my order of things and what makes sense to me as an editor. But what's really important is just kind of figuring out your strategy and trying to stay there. And not move around, bopping around between things. Oh, I'm gonna work on the audio a little bit now that I'm kind of tired of cutting up content. And then I'm gonna, I kind of want to spend some time color grade. I just don't think that's gonna make you a better editor. And it's not bringing any sort of focus to your project. So I wanna help you get stuff done, because getting it done means that you can share it with your client, you can share it with your viewers. So this is kind of my process that I use for every video that I make. So thanks for joining me for this video. I hope this was helpful. Hopefully this will make you a more efficient editor. If you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to chat with you and help you figure out kind of what strategy works best for you. So let's get out there, let's make some great videos and get stuff done. I'll see you next week.